Hi everyone, today is July 20th, 2012, so I wanted to do an update video. It's been a while since I've done one, and of course it's raining right now, but it's probably the only time that I have to actually do one. So I'm going to show you the strawberries. I said I wasn't really going to focus much on it, but what I did was I trimmed it all back, and as you can see, I have some new leaves growing, so the strawberries are still doing, they're still growing, so they're doing well. Then I have my potatoes here. The soil level dropped on the potatoes some, so I am going to add some more some soil to it. My husband and I do plan on harvesting them this week, so I guess I'll show you a harvest video. You have my broccoli over here, which is actually getting taller. All the leaves on the bottom I've trimmed out, so then all you have is these leaves on the top that are doing actually pretty well. Hopefully I'll get something off of that. Then you have my carrots here that are actually doing really well. Plants are getting rather big, especially these in the back, because those are what I started off with from the beginning. If you can remember, these two in the back are the only ones that survived when I did my seedlings in my little grow house. Then you have my cilantro. I want to show you something really, really important. This is the cilantro that you cook with. This up here is cilantro that is actually going to seed. If you can see right in here, you can see little seed pods. So that's going to seed, and I'm going to let it continue to go to seed, and then I'll just harvest the seeds. Then you have my curled parsley and my flat leaf, which I actually have to trim back because some of this isn't doing very well, so I'm going to trim off the stuff that isn't doing well, and then I'm going to allow these both to go to seed as well. You have my sister's Mexican sunflowers, which are actually getting really tall, and if you could see in the middle here, it looks like it may be growing a flower. You have the almost not so much blueberry bush that looks very, very bright green and dark green and brown. I really don't pay much attention to that. I plan on doing something different for next year. Then you have my tomatoes, which is actually getting so much taller than my covering that I have here. So they're actually doing really well. They're getting big. Here's my cherry tomatoes, which has so many cherry tomatoes on it. I actually there was that cherry tomato, the first cherry tomato I had growing here in the back. I picked it, my husband and I, we cut it in half and we each had half, and it was the best tomato I've ever had. It was crisp, it was juicy, and the flavor was so much stronger than what I'm used to having inside the supermarket. So it gave me even more motivation to keep going with this despite whether or not things have gone my way. You have the green beans here that are continuously growing. If you could see here, I have green beans here. These that are a lot bigger than other ones. They're doing actually really well. And here's my bell pepper. If you remember, the bell pepper was actually only this tall on my last video. Well, it's gotten taller. It actually is competing with the jalapenos, which keep getting taller as well. My jalapenos keep flowering and making new ones, and my bell pepper I think is going to be flowering. It is July, so we'll see how much that goes. Over here we have my zucchini. I cut some of it back over here, as you can see, so that way it won't be covering my jalapenos because they are doing well. And I've been trying to get it to kind of go more onto the netting that I have. They're not doing too well. I don't know if I'll probably do zucchini next year. If I do, I'll probably do it in that raised bed there. Then I have my eggplant. Unfortunately, with the amount of heat that we had, the flower that I had here actually fell off. It burned off, which made me really sad, but I don't think I'm going to be doing eggplants next year. Don't like eggplants. I only did it for my mother-in-law, but that is not convincing enough for me to do it for next year. Then we have over here is my squash. I cut it back quite a bit. As you can remember, this squash was actually coming out here, and growing. Well, I cut back a lot of the leaves and got it to go onto the netting. As you can see, there are some flowers and there's a lot of buds happening here. So we'll see how that goes. Then we have this squash, which I'm actually going to take out because if you look at its stem, it's not doing very well. It's not very healthy, and I've already got two really good squash plants going, so I'm just gonna pull that one out, and then hopefully it will help out with, once I pull that out, with my cucumbers. My cucumbers are climbing up my trellis here. They're doing really well. There's a lot of flowering happening. There's still no fruiting occurring. Hopefully I can get something off of that for at least for the end of this growing season. Over here we have my pumpkins, which are getting bigger, and if you can see, it's still producing more flowering, more leaves. It's doing really well. Over here the squash is actually climbing up that branch there. It's doing okay. I'm not really too concerned, not squash, that's pumpkin, not too concerned with this getting any bigger because I have the other one. Then we have my local peppers, which I've harvested a lot off of this plant. They're really spicy, so I do plan on taking the seeds for this for next year so that I can grow it myself versus buying it. It's a gorgeous plant. It's a bush-like plant, so I'm definitely going to grow it in the same container that I have this year because it's doing really well. But yeah. And then I have my basil, which is actually, after I trimmed it down and took all the bad leaves off of it, is growing pretty well. Here is my rosemary, which is doing pretty well. It is getting a little fuller. And then I wanted to show you something. I have my marigolds here planted over here near my garden to help with the bugs. But if you look into this cinder block, I found some interesting bugs. There is literally like a family of centipedes. The whole thing is filled with centipedes. It's pretty gross, but any of the cinder blocks that actually don't have plants in it have a great amount of centipedes. This one even has them, and it's kind of gross, but you know, natural way of life, so I kind of just leave it be. Over here I have my tarragon. I find that growing in the cinder blocks, as nice as it is a little bit of a problem because if you look, the soil level drops a lot, and there's no way of me adding soil without doing it over my tarragon. So next year I am just simply going to do marigolds in my cinder blocks along with some flowers to attract some bees to help with pollinating. Okay, so that's everything on this end of things, so let us go over here. Now my pumpkins are doing really great. They're getting really big, and from it getting really big and me not being able to keep up with it, a lot of it kind of bent over and broke, which, you know, is unfortunate, but it's what happened. I see it getting a lot bigger, a lot more leaves forming, if you could see here. Now I want to give you a quick little to-do here. This is your primary stem. Now you could tell that this is your primary, one because it's thicker, and two because it's a lot darker than your send-offs. Then you have here is your leaf. This is your leaf that you need to make sure that you have so it protects when your plant grows. Now I have no flowering happening on the pumpkin because there are a lot of suckers. This is considered a sucker. So what you can do is you can actually just break it off. And what it does is by breaking off the suckers, you're having your plant focus more on producing. If you come up here, Another example, you have your main trunk, your main tree stem, nice dark and thick. Then you have your leaf here, and then you have a sucker. Now a sucker becomes another plant. You don't want it to be focusing so much on making more of the plant when it needs to make the fruit. Especially because it's July, we want a fruit. Now I want to show you this one. This one's important. You have your main trunk, you have your leaf. Well, guess what else I have? I have a sucker. But look at how long this sucker is. This sucker is enormous. And you can see little buds here. But this sucker's buds are just going to grow into leaves. So, and what is it doing? It's growing these little vines here to help keep it from falling. But what I'm going to do later on is I'm going to come and trim the vines, and then I'm going to remove the sucker. So what you do is just pinch it, and you might need scissors to do this, which I think is what I'm going to need to remove the sucker. Oh, there we go. And then pinch the vines. There you go. Remove the sucker. Now, I would not throw away the suckers. I just take them and throw them into my compost bin, which I am planning on getting more manure for my compost bin. But yeah, that's you want to try to remove the suckers though when they're smaller. They're a lot easier to remove at that time. So I'm just gonna go in and remove the suckers. So today is July 20th, 2012, and I'm going to continue to remove the suckers before I downpours on me. And I will probably post this video today, seeing how it's raining and nothing really else to do. Alright, bye.